Good morning, Stan. Good morning. You hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I got you. Okay. Okay, good morning. So
Can you hear me?
yes, I can. So we're at the bottom of 18b, the Mishnah, 3 lines from the bottom. Your video is freezing. Not sure if I'm coming through or not. Am I? Like your video is frozen. Oh, there we go. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, 18b at the bottom. Mishnah, 3 lines from the bottom. You can't write loan agreements on Chol Moed. So in other words, this is not one of the exceptions. And it's, it's doing business, it's writing. These are things that are prohibited. But if the lender doesn't trust the borrower, so he's afraid he's going to lose his money, so that's an exemption for Chol Moed, the potential loss of money. Then you can do it. Or I think in the when we encountered this Mishnah earlier in the parak, I misunderstood it. It appears to be talking about if the scribe needs the money, needs to earn his fee. He doesn't have anything to eat. Okay, so if the scribe has nothing to eat, then you can write it. You can't write a Torah or tefillin or mezuzah on Chol Moed. So you would think that there's an exemption for various reasons. First of all, it's a Torah scroll is a communal need, and there's a mitzvah involved. Nonetheless, that's not an out. You can't do these things on Chol Moed. Ve'in magin os achas afilu b'sefer azara. You can't even fix it. You can't even fix the leather. Now this is an interesting thing. If it's Sefer Ezra or Sefer Azara, it seems to be that this is Sefer Azara, meaning this was like the standard that was kept in the temple, the standard Torah that all the others were checks against. And if in error, well, not all the others, but this was like the most highly regarded. And if something needed to be corrected, sometimes the ink can rub off. It needs to be filled in. Even for that, you can't do it on Chol Moed, even though it's clearly a communal need, but it could be deferred. You can do it for yourself. You can write these things if it's your own, but you can't do it as a scribe for profit. And you can spin the blue wool that was used for one of the tzitzis. You can do that, but not in a professional manner. You can't do it on a loom or whatever the tool is. You can do it on your thigh, like by hand, in a non-professional way. As we've seen before, amateur things are permitted, where professional jobs are prohibited. Tanarban, rabbis taught. You can write tefillin and mezuzah for yourself. And you can spin the tcheles wool. For other people, you can do it, but only as a favor, not for making a profit. So says Rabbi Meir. So the prohibition seems to be based on doing business. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, marichim umocher shelo. You can, marim umocher shelo v'chozra kosev liatzmo. You can kind of get around this by, you come to me and say, write me some tefillin. I'll pay you $100. And so what I can do is, well, I can't really do that for profit, but what I can do is I can sell you my tefillin and then write for myself. Okay, so ultimately I'm making a profit, but I'm not making a profit directly off of the writing. Rabbi Yossi says, if this is how you earn money, then you should do it like normal. If this is, again, if you this is not, it doesn't say if you have nothing to eat, but this is to earn money to celebrate the holiday properly, right? To treat yourself to a nice steak for Yantav. Okay. So we're reading into it that because you're doing it for the holiday and because it's a mitzvah, that lets you off the hook. Orele Rav Rav Chananel. Rav taught Rav Chananel the following: the Amrila Rav Chananel Rav Chananel. Some say it was Rabbah who taught him halacha. We rule kosef umocher kedarko k'tei pranasasa. You can do it as part of your regular earning money. You're kind of the regular level that you're selling at. So the Mishnah said you can spin the wool on your thigh. Tana Rabbanan. So you can spin it on your leg. Avalo be'evan. You can't use a stone, which is like a more of a tool, right? Where if if in the few times that I've like tied the knots of my own tzitzis, it's helpful to put something on the end of the string to weight it down. It's easier to work with. So this appears to be the same idea. You can spin the wool if you've weighted it on one side. It makes it easier to twist it. Dear Rabbi Lezer says the Chacham and Rabbi say you can use the tool. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishmo. Rabbi Yehuda says from in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, be'evan al b'pelach. Not that Rabbi Eliezer didn't say you can't use a stone. He said you can use a stone. You can use a stone, but you can't use a spindle. Okay, a spindle is really a professional tool for spinning. But a stone you can use because it's like not a professional tool, it's just an aid, and that's not what a pro uses. The rabbis don't make a distinction. You can use the tool. Rabbi Yehuda says, halacha bein be'evan bein bepelach. You can use any kind of tool, even a spindle. Halacha, and we rule kosef kedarko mocher kedei pranasasa. You can write normally and sell these items to an mezuzah. So we come down on the idea that if it's an item for a mitzvah purpose, we are more lenient with the rules of Chol Moed. Next Mishnah, Hakover es meso shlosha yamim kodem l'regel. So now we're going to deal for a while with the laws of mourning. So, as you know, a person loses a close relative. So until the burial, he's called an onen, and he is. There's one set of rules. Actually, there aren't really restrictions. He's actually technically he is relieved from the responsibility of most mitzvahs. Once the burial has occurred, there's a period of shiva, and we'll investigate the origins of this. There's 7 days of mourning, and simultaneously there begins a period of 30 days with lesser restrictions. And it's called shloshim, which means 30. So when I refer to shloshim, generally it will be the period after the conclusion of the 7 days, but before the 30 days is up. So it's really a period of 23 days. But for convenience, we'll call it shloshim, meaning the period of shloshim, which is not also the period of shiva. Make sense? Okay. Okay, so the Mishnah says if you, the other thing to know is that, and we'll investigate in detail what are the details of this, a holiday interrupts the period of mourning, and the way it's practiced today, it like cancels it. So if you're sitting Shiva and then the holiday starts, Pesach, Shavuos, or Sukkot, or Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, then that ends that kind of cancels the rest of the mourning period, but you go to the next level. So it would cancel Shiva and you would be in Shloshim level. Okay. But the details of that, the Mishnah and the Gemara will work out. So, if a person buries his close relative 3 days before the holiday begins, 3 days or more, then that cancels the Shiva. Shmona, but if it's 8 days before the festival, so in other words, the Shiva has already concluded, and now you're in the period of Shloshim, then the Shloshim restrictions are canceled. Mipnei Shamru, because they said, Shabbos Ola v'Eina Mafsekes. Shabbos is included in the Shiva, so in counting 7 days, you include Shabbos, and Regalim. But it doesn't. It counts and it doesn't interrupt the Shiva. Regalim Mafsikin v'Eina Olin, and holidays actually interrupt the Shiva, and it's like you don't even have to count the days. Okay, Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Rabbi Eliezer says, "Mishachar Beis Hamikdash Atzeres Keshavos." So the difference between Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot is obviously that Pesach and Sukkot are 7 days, and Shavuos is only 1 day. Now it's 2 days in diaspora, but we're not talking about that. So it's only 1 day of Shavuos. So in the time of the temple, there was on every holiday, every person was supposed to come up to the temple and offer one of the sacrifices that were supposed to be offered is called a chagiga, which is the next tractate that we're going to cover after this one. And so that period, you have a 7-day period to offer the chagiga. Even for Shavuos, which is only 1 day, the window for bringing this chagiga sacrifice is still 7 days, so another 6 days after the holiday itself. So in that sense, it's equivalent to the other holidays, right? There is a 7-day period in which the holiday is in some sense relevant, and so it interrupts Shiva. Now, what the Mishnah is saying here is that now that the temple is destroyed and there's no Karban Chagiga, there's no Chagiga sacrifice, so effectively Shavuos is only 1 day, so it's not as significant as Pesach. So Rabbi Eliezer is saying that Shavuos is like a Shabbos. In other words, it's not such a big deal, this holiday. It doesn't cancel your Shiva. Rabbi Gamliel says Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippur and Kirgalim. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which are also 1 day, are like holidays, meaning that they do interrupt the Shiva. Look at the rabbis don't agree with either one. In other words, Shavuos is a full-fledged holiday, and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are not. Ela Atzeres Kirigalim, Shavuos is still a full holiday. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur and Shabbos. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, they don't interrupt the Shiva, and they count as one of the days of Shiva. Okay, the Gemara says, "Amar Rav, Gzeras Batlu Yamim Labatlu." So like on Shabbos, you count it as a day of Shiva, but you don't observe the rules of the Shiva. The restrictions of Shloshim are canceled, but the days are not. Rosh Hashanah says even the days are canceled. Why did they say that the days are not canceled? Shimlo gilach erev haregel asul galech achar regel. If you didn't shave, you didn't cut your hair before Yativ, you can't shave for a full 30 days. For the full 30 days after the Yativ. In other words, just a second. So what's the reason that you cancel the Shloshim restrictions for the holiday? Because you want to honor the holiday, right? You want people to be able to be presentable for the holiday and cut their hair and so on. So, and do their laundry and bathe and whatever. So if you didn't, if you didn't take advantage of that, then you have to complete the Shloshim, because after the holiday, there's like you never interrupted it in the first place. It's not like a magical thing that the holiday interrupted. There's a reason that the holiday interrupted, so that you can bathe and cut your hair and whatever. And once you've done that, we're gonna say we're done with the whole thing. But if you didn't take advantage of that, then there's no reason to let you off the hook. Gemara says Vatanya, but don't we have a brisa? Actually, this is a support. It's unusual that it uses the word Vahatanya, which is usually a question, but it's a support. Our Mishnah said the same thing. If you bury a relative 3 days before the holiday, Shiva. Then the Shiva is canceled. If the burial occurs 8 days before the festival, so Shiva is completed. Shloshim, canceled the Shloshim. And here it goes into detail. So you can, trim your hair on the day before the holiday. If you didn't, then you have to complete the shloshim even after the holiday. Abba Shalom says, now it doesn't matter. Canceled, it's canceled, even no matter what you did. Just as if you've done 3 days, now this is not a practice, but if you've done 3 days already of the Shiva, then the holiday can cancel the rest of it. The same thing with the Shloshim. If you've already done the 7 days of Shiva, then the holiday cancels the Shloshim, even if you didn't actually cut your hair before in honor of Yom Tov. So the Gemara says Shiva after 7 days. So Anan Shmona. Wait. What we said was if the burial is 8 days before, not 7 days before. So because Abba Shal makes us say Yom Kukula. That's because Abba Shal holds that you count part of the day. Yom Shvi Ololokan. The 7th day, you only keep an hour of the Shiva, and that counts as the 7th day. But it also counts as one of the first day of the Shloshim. Of the Shloshim period. Amar Chizar Maravina Bar Shela. Rav Chizar said, "Halacha B'Shol, we will like B'Shol, Modim Chacham B'Shol, B'Shachol, Shemini Shalolios B'Shol." But the rabbis give in to Abba Shol if the 8th day, in other words, the day after the Shiva, fell on Shabbos that was Erev Yom Tov. Shemuto L'Galeach B'Erev Shabbos. So then on the 7th day, they agree. In this case, you can cut your hair in honor of Shabbos and Yom Tov. Okay. Now, examining this Mixas Hayom Kakulo, the part of the day becomes considered the whole day, which is the common practice, and that's why the Shiva ends early on the 7th day. In accordance with who is the statement of Rav Amram? Avel kevan she'amdu menachmi me'atzlo mutar berachitza. Once the last group of consolers leave him on the 7th day, the restrictions are over. Come on, who is that? Abba Shal. Obviously, it's like Abba Shal that says that if you observe some nichum avelim, some comforting of the avel of the mourner in the morning of the 7th day, then the day is done, right? Then you're done with the restrictions. So Amar Abaye, halacha Abba Shal biyom Shiva. We follow Abba Shal on the 7th day. So in other words, part of the 7th day is like the whole day. Umodim chacham Abba Shal biyom shloshim tamrina mixas. And the rabbis who say no, you have to do the whole 7th day, but they agree about the shloshim, that the last day of shloshim, it's enough to observe just a little bit of the day, and that is considered the 30th day. Rava Amar halacha Abba Shal biyom shloshim, ve'en halacha Abba Shal biyom shiva. And Rava agrees with the rabbis that the 30th day can be observed in full by only doing part of it the day, but not with regard to the 7th day of Shiva. In Narda and in Narda, they said halacha Abba Shal bezo. No, that we can't. We do the partial day as a whole day thing for both the Shiva and the Shloshim. Because Shmuel said, who was, by the way, the head guy in the Narda, he said the halacha. We always follow the lenient position when it comes to mourning. Shloshim Yom Minal. Now we're going to examine, where does this come from in the first place? Where do you have the source that there's a 30-day prohibition, 30-day procedure for mourning? Yalif para minazir. We learn it from Nazir, right? About the Kohanim, in the aftermath of the death of Nadav and Abihu. So God says to the surviving family, Rashechem al tifro, don't let your hair grow and don't tear your clothes. In other words, don't do this mourning business in that case. Uksiv hasam gadel para sarosho, and it uses the word para, the locks of your hair. It also uses about Nazir, right? Ma lahalan shloshim yom, just as the period of a nazir is 30 days. Afkan shloshim yom, so too, so too, the mourning period that's being referred to, which in this case was canceled, but is referred to as the, don't do the mourning period, is also 30 days. How do you know that the Nazir is 30 days? Never says that anywhere in the Torah. Amar Masna, Stam Nazir Shloshim Yom. Yeah, our standard. If a person, you can make a vow of Nazirus for any length of time. You can say, I want to be a Nazir for a year. But if you just say, I want to be a Nazir, the standard is 30 days. And what's the source of that? My Tama, Amar Kra, Kadosh Yeh. The Torah says about the Nazir, he shall be holy, and the he shall be, the word yihya, the numerical value of the word he shall be is 30. So that's an allusion to the standard Nazirus being 30 days. It's a little weak, actually, for such a basic rule, but that's where it comes from. Our Ravuna Breder of Yeshua. Hakol Modim Kishachol Shlishi Shaloli Yoser Farek. Ravuna says everybody agrees that when the third day of mourning is Erev Yantov, Sha'azor Bechitza Ad HaErev, that you can't, even though the holiday is canceling the Shiva, you can't start your, you can't end your mourning by bathing or whatever until the evening. In other words, when the holiday starts. And on a holiday, you're permitted to bathe in cold water, maybe not hot water, but you can bathe in cold water. So you have to observe that whole third day, even though it's Erev Yantiv. You can't take a hot shower in honor of the holiday. You have to wait until evening, and then you can bathe, but only in cold water because it's Yantiv. Amar Rav Nechemia of Rav Yeshua. Rav Nechemia said, "Ashkechinu l'Rav Papa." Papi Rav Papa Diasik Amray. I found Rav Papi and Rav Papa who were saying Halacha Rav Huna Bred Rav Yeshua. They agreed with this Rav Huna that says on the third day of mourning you have to keep the whole day even if it's Erev Yantiv. Ikad right? Or another version of this. Amar Rav Nechemia Bred Rav Yosef. Rav Nechemia said Ashkechin Rav Papi Rav Papa Rav Huna Bred Rav Yeshua Diasik Amray. I found the three of them Rav Papi Rav Papa and Rav Huna. And they all said, Hakol Modim Shem Chol Shlisha Shaloli Yoser V'Regel Sha'asar V'Chitza If they cited this law. So whichever version it is, this appears to be the conclusion. So Bamine Abai, May Rabba, Abai asked Rabba, Regel Kavar Baregel, if you buried a relative on the holiday itself. Regel Olol Aluminium Shloshim or Regel Olol Aluminium Shloshim. When do you start counting the 30 days? On the day of burial itself, which is still during the holiday, or do you wait till after the holiday and then start a full period of Shloshim? So remember that, like, the reason that the Shloshim is canceled by the holiday is so that you can prepare yourself for the holiday, but here it doesn't apply. So aluminium Shiva Lokam Vaili. Rabbi says, I'm not asking about the Shiva. The lo naga mitzvah Shiva Baregel. Since you don't observe the Shiva practices on the holiday. So clearly that means that you're going to start the whole 7 days of Shiva afterwards. I'm asking about the 30 days. The Kanaga mitzvahs Shloshim Baregel, because the Shloshim restrictions you do keep on the holiday. So you can argue that, the burial took place today on Chol Moed, so start counting today, because the Shloshim restrictions you can already start keeping, which is like don't wear shoes. No, that's the Shiva. Like don't cut your hair and don't bathe. That you can do on the holiday. So what's the answer? Rabbi says you don't count it. You start counting the 30 days after the holiday ends, even though the burial was during the holiday. So he asked, the Brisa says, if you bury somebody 2 days before the holiday, so what do? So you've got 2 days before the holiday interrupts it, and according to the opinion that we're dealing with here, since there weren't 3 days, you have to pick up where you left off when the holiday ends, so you have another 5 days. But in those 5 days after the holiday, you can have somebody else do your work, which is not usually the case during the regular Shiva. And your domestic workers can do things privately in your home that they wouldn't otherwise be doing if it were a regular shiva. Ve'ein rabim misaskin imo, and also you don't have people coming to pay condolence call because they could have kept coming during the holiday. So in other words, like people can still visit you and speak with you, during the holiday for a consecutive 7 days, right? There's no restriction on speaking to an Havel, right, during the holiday. So those 7 days have already expired. So the picking up the remaining 5 non-holiday days is kind of a less significant thing, and you can get around these restrictions by doing them privately, discreetly. Kol shel davar, what's the rule? Kol shel mishum avel, anything that's because of that has to do with the mourner directly. Regel mafsika. That's interrupted by the holiday, and you have to pick it up after. But anything that has to do with the public, meaning like the visiting and whether people can observe you doing, working or whatever, that is not interrupted by the holiday. Now, if the burial took place 3 days before the end of the holiday, so like during Moed, Mona Shiva Acharegel, then you start the Shiva after the holiday. You don't start it at the burial, you wait until the holiday is over. So the first 4 days of this period, there are like the real Shiva, as it were, because like if you had counted from the burial, then the last 3 days of the holiday would have counted, and you'd have 4 more days. Okay, so for those first 4 days of the Shiva period, Rabbi Misaskin Bo, people come visit. Sholshamim Achronim and Rabbi Misaskin Bo. But for the last 3, you don't have to go visit, because presumably you were already visiting him for the 3 days before the kind of official Shiva period started. So there was a total period of 7 days when people were visiting. Viregel. So the Brisa has said that you don't count the holiday days towards the 7 days of Shiva, but the 30 days of Shloshim Viregel Ololo, that is the days during the holiday are counted, as we said, because those restrictions are not can be observed during the holiday, so there's no interruption. My love is safe. So we're talking about the Shloshim, right? Aren't we referring to the last piece of the immediately preceding piece of the Mishnah, which is that the case where the burial took place on the holiday? So that would contradict what Rabbah said, that the holiday doesn't count toward the Shloshim. Where it says lo aresha, no, it's talking about the beginning of the Brisa, in which the burial took place 2 days before the holiday. Okay. Esvei. So by asking Regel Ololo Minyan Shloshim, the Brisa, another Brisa states that the holiday counts as part of the 30 days of Shloshim. Katan. How? Kavaru b'tchilas regel. If the burial takes place at the beginning of the holiday, Mona Shiva Acharegel, you start counting the Shiva after the holiday. But other people can do his work. So your domestic workers can do things discreetly in your house. And you don't get Shiva visits because people already been visiting you for the whole 7 days of the holiday. For Regel Ololo, and the holiday is counted as part of the Shloshim. So this brisa says clearly that that when the burial took place on the holiday itself, even on the first day of the holiday, that the whole holiday period counts towards the Shloshim against Rabbah. So Gemara says, Tufta, yeah, it's a good question. That does contradict Rabbah. When Rabin came to Babylonia, he said, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, even if the burial took place on the holiday, you still count the holiday days as part of the Shloshim. That's what Rabbi Lazar instructed his son. I guess they must have had maybe there was a case or whatever, but he said that's what he ruled as well. Okay, we can stop here for today. Pick it up tomorrow.
Thank you, Dov. Have a good day.
You too.